We got a call from the neighbor. Water is gushing out of your house through the driveway, gushing like a river, and the entire ceiling is collapsed onto the living room floor. This is like my worst nightmare.
Maddie, thanks so much for joining me.
How are you doing today? I'm excited to be here. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Where are you at?
I am in upstate New York in Hudson.
Okay. Is that where your rental is as well?
Yes, we have 5 properties up here in the upstate New York, Catskill, Finger Lakes area.
I hear that's a great area. Tell me a little bit about your rental and the incident you experienced.
So I think this was the 3rd client property that we had done in upstate New York, and it's in a small ski town that's right next to Wyndham, if you're familiar with upstate New York. Very cold in the winter. And we closed, I think, mid-January, so it was dead of winter, it's snowing, it's super cold, and you know that it's vital to check the fuel levels when you close, because most properties here, their heat system operates either on propane or on oil. So when you close on a property in the winter, you want to make sure that those are completely full so that your pipes don't burst and the house stays warm. We checked the gauges, they were full, we were like, perfect, we're set, because the house is going to be empty for a little bit between closing and when the contractors get in there. But then we got a call from the neighbor and they said, hey, water is gushing out of your house through the driveway, gushing like a river. And I was like, oh my God, this is like my worst nightmare. How the heck is water running out of the house? So I get there and I walk in and the entire ceiling is collapsed onto the living room floor. Upstairs bathroom, a pipe had burst because it wasn't warm in there. It's like maybe 40 degrees inside. So we're on the 2nd floor. It's coming out of the bathroom through the ceiling onto the 1st floor and then like gushing out of the house, literally like a river. I was panicked. We did all the things. We made sure that the tank was full. We made sure that the thermostat was on. In my head, I was just like, what the heck happened? And I'm so concerned about what is the owner going to think? Is he going to have a panic attack? What if insurance doesn't cover it? What am I going to do? You take on so much liability and these people really trust you. So he had trusted me and then this happened and I'm imagining a worst case scenario. He's going to have to pay out of pocket. The insurance company is going to blame me somehow or they're going to nitpick everything. So much anxiety, more anxiety than I had ever experienced working on one of these properties. I had offered to the owner, let me do your insurance claim for you, wanting to take as much pain off of him as I could. I went ahead and submitted the claim. Someone called me within like 3 minutes. And we were assigned someone to represent our case. Her name was Elizabeth, and she was amazing. And it was just such a relief to talk to someone at Proper to be reassured that this was covered and this was under our policy. And not only would you guys cover the damage that was done, but also the loss of revenue. My loss of revenue as the manager.
The revenue protection is something that's so critical. I think a lot of hosts really look past. They don't really consider that up front, that, you know, if something goes wrong, you need to bridge that gap. Otherwise, it can really set you back. How did you find Proper then?
A lot of our friends are content creators, and I know that I was just always seeing Proper. And then when we did our first client property, we're taking on like a ton of liability by doing these projects for investors. We're finding the deal, we're managing the renovations, we're managing the property. A lot of them never even go to the house, so they're fully trusting us. And so when we took that on, it was really important for me to find them exceptional insurance and not just normal homeowners insurance, but also insurance that would cover their liability and my liability and would cover my income if anything happened and would protect their investment as well. When I had the first call and I realized that you guys cover all of that, even though it was a little bit more expensive than traditional homeowners insurance, it was so worth it and has paid off tenfold for all of the client properties as well as our own.
That's why we exist. We're here to fill that hole in this market and to provide a comprehensive solution that people can put their trust in, particularly when they're taking big risks, like you mentioned. Unfortunately, claims do happen, and we've developed an in-house claims department to really handle those claims. And we love hearing from folks like you who fortunately have lived and learned and come out the other side on top. So what was the rest of the process like? You made a call and it sounds like the anxiety went down at that point.
After I submitted the claim online, someone called and then followed up via email, and we coordinated an adjuster coming to the house to take a look at the damage in person. But my concern was I don't want to wait for this person to come because there's water in the house. So every day that it's there, it's mold and causing more damage. And so Elizabeth assured me, like, send someone there now, just take photos of how it looks like before anyone comes in. send someone there to take care of the moisture, to bring in fans and dehumidifiers while we wait for the adjuster to come to the property. So that was a big relief because I know that sometimes there can be issues if you send someone there before the insurance company has to take a look. That was a huge pro for me, that someone didn't have to wait to go until Proper had direct eyes on it, that they could take our photos and videos and everything. And then the adjuster came and I met him there and just walked him through what happened, showed him the photos and videos of what it looked like before the dehumidifier company came out. And then he did an estimate on how much it would be to fix it. So that included fixing the pipes, new insulation, new flooring, new drywall, paint, everything to get the house looking like how it was before the water damage happened. And then there was communication between the adjuster and Proper and our contractor to kind of settle on a price on what all of the repairs would look like. But it was super easy. My involvement was really just making sure people had access to the house to go see the damage when they needed to, and then being on email to make sure that the communication was moving along smoothly.
Sounds like it was a pretty noteworthy payout for that level of damage.
Yes. Yeah, it was over $50,000.
Wow.
So it covered all of the damage, which was a huge relief, again, because we underwrite these properties to only need so much money to go into renovation. And so when this happened, my worst nightmare was that budget having to increase so much that the deal became a bad deal for the investor. Even though the property wasn't up and running on Airbnb and we didn't have to cancel any guests or anything because the listing didn't exist yet, it still pushed out our timeline to when we could have gone live. What I believe the Proper team did was calculate how much of a delay that was and in what months we would have been live that we weren't able to be. And we sent them the AirDNA projections. And so they were able to use the AirDNA estimate to compensate us for the revenue that we lost by not being able to go live when we thought we would have.
The unique kind of benefits of a true business income or business revenue policy is that it looks at actually what you should have made during that time, because it's treating you like a coffee shop. You have to have income. You are a business. That's awesome that they were able to kind of analyze that data and come up with fair compensation for that time.
Yeah, it was great. And I think one thing that really stood out to me with Proper is every time I sent an email, I was expecting like a rebuttal. I've worked with insurance companies before and you say one thing and they try to push you down or they try to get less. And there was literally none of that with Proper. Everyone was understanding and looked at the numbers and just, I felt listened to and heard versus feeling like they were trying to haggle me for everything.
I think a lot of folks are often pretty surprised when they see the sticker price for a business policy versus a traditional homeowner's policy.
I look at it so differently. I don't compare it to normal homeowners insurance because the coverage is so different. So if you are shocked by the price, I would highly encourage you to actually read through what's covered, because I think a lot of us are guilty of just looking at the price and not reading any of the documentation because it looks long or there's too much details or you fear you're not going to understand it. But it's so important to understand what's included for the price, both with Proper and if you're comparing it to a normal homeowner's insurance. And if you dig into what's actually covered, you'll see why Proper is more expensive, because you're getting covered with so much more. We
try to be a resource for people, but of course they don't always trust us to read the policy for them, right?
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like these days you can go have AI read it for you, whatever it is. It's just,
100%.
Try to dissect that language, understand what you are and aren't covered for. Beyond the limits, right? A lot of folks confuse limits. The numbers are all the same versus the coverages. Are you covered for bed bugs, for squatters, for dog bites? What kind of tips and tricks do you have for other hosts that are getting into the space and curious about how to protect their investment?
I think we have 6 homes with Proper. And after going through the insurance claim, I can definitely say that it's the most important thing, because not only is it protecting you from what normal homeowners insurance would protect you from, but like we've talked about, it's also the general liability coverage and the loss of income. Because short-term rentals are so different from a single family home. So it really doesn't make sense to get single family home insurance for it. Because like you said, it is a business. When you're underwriting a property or analyzing it, go to Proper and do the free estimate, because that will help you get an accurate number to plug into your pro forma when you're considering a property. And then you won't be surprised by the insurance cost if it's higher or less than what you had expected.
What were some of the biggest hurdles you found in just entering the short-term rental space?
So when we find the deals for people, we're helping them estimate everything, from how much are the couches going to cost, to what's going to be my fuel bill every month, to how much is my insurance. And that is really like a skill set that we've had to develop over time, because it's so vital. If you estimate those wrong, a deal that seems really good on paper could be tragic in real life. And so I think that's been the biggest struggle, is to learn more about every single expense that goes into a short-term rental so that we can accurately predict how well it's going to do as an investment.
You're operating almost as an advanced property manager. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's a service we launched probably a year and a half ago. We do everything A to Z for someone who wants to own a short-term rental but doesn't want to do any of the work. So we find the deal for them, we analyze it, we help them find a loan, help them get homeowners insurance and insurance for their STR. We design it for them, we manage the renovations, and then we put it up on Airbnb and Vrbo, and we manage it for them.
Anything else you'd like our audience to know?
I would say having proper will ease your concerns and lower your stress levels so much. Yeah. Trust us that it's worth the investment, and it's worth paying a little bit extra to have, better sleep at night.
If they're looking for a property in upstate New York, where should they find you?
We are at Skylar and Maddie on Instagram. So DM us there. We work with investors to find properties, renovate them, design them, and manage them.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Maddie. I think it's great just for folks to kind of see firsthand what it's like to be a host. And things aren't always rainbows, but when the storm does come through, you have a partner that can help you clean up the mess. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course.